Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. If you would do me a favor, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. But NFL Wildcard Weekend has concluded with Monday Night Football against the Cardinals and the Rams, and it was a very eventful NFL Wildcard Weekend. And let's start with probably the biggest game and the one that gets the most attention, and that was the Cowboys 49ers game. Now, going into this game, I said that this was probably, in fact, the Cowboys was the only home team I picked to lose. Why is that? And a lot of people, came to me, contacted me, talking about you're a homer or, you're a Washington fan. Of course, you're going to go against the Cowboys. No. The biggest reason why I chose the 49ers to beat the Cowboys is because of habits. The hardest thing to do, the easiest thing to do, let me say this. The easiest thing to do is form a habit, especially early in the season. The hardest thing to do is overcome your habits, especially in the playoffs. The Cowboys, what have we heard from the Cowboys all year? One, the offense has not been playing well. Dak Prescott hasn't been playing well since coming back from the hamstring injury. CeeDee Lamb hasn't been good. Amari Cooper has been spotty. Ezekiel Elliott is nowhere to be found. The offense has not been playing well. While the defense is playing good, the offense hasn't been playing well. What's another thing that we said about Dallas going into the wild card weekend? Mike McCarthy can, due to his poor clock management, he can cost them a game. They hope that it's not going to be in the playoffs, but he can cost them a game because his blunders as a head coach when it comes to clock management has been wildly and available to the world for the world to see. Another thing that we said, this team, while they play really good at times, they have a lot of penalties. It's a penalty-ridden team. Not saying that they're the most penalized team, but they're one of the more penalized teams in the NFL. With knowing all that going into the game against the 49ers, what did we see? First and foremost, the 49ers beat the Cowboys 23-17. And, of course, it didn't come without any controversy. We'll talk about the end of the game in a second, but everything that we said about Dallas going into this game, from their shortcomings to the head coach to the penalties, is exactly what we saw. Now, give credit to the 49ers defense. The 49ers defense was incredible. Unfortunately, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa went out. Hopefully, they'll be available for the game against Green Bay. But nobody wants to play the 49ers. The 49ers is a team, even though they tried everything in their power to give Dallas this game, especially at the end, nobody wants to play. When you have Deebo Samuels playing, he's one of the most incredible players in the league because they use him in so many ways, and he's so versatile. I mean, he had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. You don't want to play this team. The defense is ferocious. The offense, Brandon Ayuk. This is not a team that you want to play. But let's focus on Dallas. So, as we expected, going into the game or in the game, let's talk about the game. In the game, Dallas's offense was not firing at all. Dak Prescott was looking bad. CeeDee Lamb was dropping passes. Amari Cooper was nowhere to be found, especially in the first half. It just wasn't looking good. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't doing anything. Now, it did come out that I think he has a PCL injury or a partial PCL tear, which then kind of begs the question, why did he play as much with that? I don't know. But nothing was going right for Dallas. I think they were down like 23-7 at one point. But like I said, the 49ers tried everything in their power for Dallas to stay in the game. I mean, Jimmy G threw, like I said, Def Jackson, Jimmy G going to try to get you one. Jimmy threw a horrible interception. And on another play, if you would have just waited for Trent Williams to get set, then they wouldn't have had an off or a false start penalty. But at the end of the day, both teams were what they were. Who are the 49ers? The 49ers is a team that is a ground and pound team. They're also a team that prides themselves on creativity, especially offensively, with Deebo Samuels, with some Jimmy G packages, some Trey Lance packages, even though he didn't play. Brandon Ayuk is incredible. George Kittle is incredible. And George Kittle didn't have to be that big in this game, but he did make some clutch catches. And, of course, their defense is always going to be physical defense. I mean, when you have Nick Bosa, when you have Fred Warner, when you have Armstead, they were getting to Dak at will. But the 49ers were the 49ers, and the Dallas was Dallas. Dak didn't play well. Dak, quiet as it kept, Dak has not played well this season since coming back from the hamstring injury. I don't want to say it is the hamstring injury, but there is a huge difference from before the hamstring injury and after. And Mike McCarthy, you know what? We're here. Let's talk about the end of the game. So the end of the game, Dallas had a chance to win the game. They were marching down the field. There was like 50 seconds left. They get to, I think, like the 50-yard line. There's 14 seconds left. They run a quarterback draw. Now, I'm not an NFL. I've never played NFL. I've only played football 1 year of my life, and that was in 2003. So I'm not a football savant. I'm not a diehard purist football fan. But I do know if multiple former football players are saying the same thing, that might be true. Everybody at the end of the game. So they're marching down. Dak Prescott throws or runs a quarterback draw, gets to like the 24, 25-yard line. And the game, so he puts the ball down. The umpire rushes in, because you have to give the ball to the umpire. And then he throws a spike. But it pretty much didn't count because by the time the umpire ran in, grabbed the ball, repositioned it, the game was over. So Dallas' season ended on poor clock management, a very questionable play call, and Dak Prescott not really doing what he's supposed to. Now, goes back to the point where I was saying. Every single former NFL player has come out, whether it's Marcus Spears, whether it's Ryan Clark, whether it's Darren Orlowski, whether it's Shannon Sharp, whether it's Keyshawn Johnson. Every single former player has said the same thing. You give the ball to the umpire. Now, I don't know why the umpire is 30 yards away from the play, but you give the ball to the umpire. You don't just put the ball on the ground. So, and I understand the heat of the moment you may forget, but that's not something that you should and can forget in that moment, seeing as though your playoff lives are on the line. So, this was 49ers won. The 49ers move on to face Green Bay in the frozen tundra. That's just how it is. In Dallas, a team that had so much promise. I remember in the beginning of the year, man, I was one of the people saying it's hard for me to find, because there was a point in this year, in this season, especially early on when Dallas looked like the clear-cut favorite, not just to make it to the Super Bowl, but to win it. I mean, Dak was playing at an all-time high. Zeke, along with Tony Pollard, that run game was ferocious. Amari Cooper was going crazy. CeeDee Lamb was going crazy. Dalton Schultz was going crazy. The defense was going crazy. And we'll talk about the defense in a second. But the defense was going crazy. This team looked great. Now, we know the famous saying that Stephen A. Smith definitely always says is, if an accident bound to happen. And it kind of feels that way. It kind of feels that way because, I mean, look at this roster compared to what we got. And let's go to the defense real quick. The defense, Dan Quinn probably is going to get a head coach somewhere else because of how drastic the defense looked from last year to this year. It just looked incredible. And, I mean, Dan Quinn, I guess he refound his love for head coach. I'm not going to say that because he got fired from Atlanta. And, I mean, he got the job that wanted him. So, but he more than likely is going to be gone. Kellen Moore has been linked to a lot of head coaching jobs. And this defense, and the defense was good this year. Don't get me wrong. The defense, Trayvon Diggs was great. Randy Gregory this year was good. Dexter Lawrence was good. Anthony Brown was garbage, but he had the big pick in the game off Jimmy Garoppolo. But Dallas had 14. Whether it was defense, whether it was holding for the offensive line, had 14 penalties, which is I think the most in a playoff game by one player or one team. That's undisciplined. And the last thing you want to do is be undisciplined in the playoffs. This is a failed season. This is a failed season for Dallas. It's a failed season because Vander Esch, he's an unrestricted free agent, so you have to figure out what you're going to do with him. I think Randy Gregory is a restricted free agent. You have to see what you're going to do with him. Ezekiel Elliott's contract is about to really eat up this team. You have to figure out what you're going to do with Amari Cooper, and he's going to want a new deal. So this was the best shot. This was the best shot. Not to mention, look at the landscape of think about how Dallas played the beginning of the year. Then look at the landscape of the NFC right now. I wouldn't be surprised if, Dallas, especially in the beginning of the year, not now, of course, but the beginning of the year, I wouldn't be shocked if Dallas went in and beat Green Bay in the NFC Championship. It's because of how good they were playing, and now it's just like nothing. And this isn't, and I think it's unfortunate, even more unfortunate, because again, this felt like the best shot they had with the roster they have, with the construction they have, with Dak playing great in the beginning of the season. And there's going to be like Vander Esch might leave. I think Randy Gregory might leave. It's just an opportunity wasted. An opportunity wasted, and people were trying to tell you, and I was one of those people towards the latter half of the season. I'm like, okay, this clearly is not the team that we saw in the beginning. I don't know, or we saw at the beginning of the year that were just like, but maybe it is. Maybe it is, because now that I sit here and thinking about what Dallas did this year was what they're supposed to do. They beat up on bad teams and struggled against good teams. I think the best team that they beat was the Chargers, or didn't even make the playoffs, and the New England Patriots. They lost to They lost to Kansas City. They lost to the Bucks. I believe they lost to Green Bay, I think. But they beat up on Washington. They beat up on the horrible Giants. They beat up on the Eagles, which we'll get to in a second. They beat up on bad teams. They beat the Panthers, a team that didn't make the playoffs. So this is a lost year, man. This is a lost year for Dallas. This is a year that this was their best year, especially with some of the roster changes that more than likely will come. It's crazy. And for the 49ers side, man, the 49ers have been playing well. They've been on a roll, and this is. I'm gonna give my prediction, of course, next on Saturday's episode. But they have been playing They've been playing their brand of basketball or football, and they've been playing how I thought they would play the beginning of the year. Remember when I did my rankings of all the all the divisional teams, and when I went to the NFC West, I was conflicted between putting the Rams and the 49ers up there because both teams have a great roster, and the Rams I'm not Rams. 49ers probably due to injuries or whatever. They haven't really been playing well. So that was before, of course, going to the playoffs. But they've been playing their brand of football, and it is interesting. I do have to wait to see what's going to happen with Fred Warner. Is he going to play? Also, what's going to happen with Nick Bosa? They both went out in the game and missed pretty much most of the second half due to injury, and even. Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. I think he has a shoulder injury now. So, but I'll give my prediction on how I feel is going to happen on Saturday. But shouts out to the 49ers for beating the Cowboys 23-17. The next game that shocked me. It didn't shock me because. It didn't shock me because I predicted the Rams were going to beat the Cardinals. It shocked me because I think this was one of the first times that Kyler Murray really looked like a young player. And the Rams beat the Cardinals 34-11. Now, this is the same Cardinals that were once 7-0. And we'll talk about it in a second, but this is why. And people like to down wide receivers a lot. But I'm almost sure if DeAndre Hopkins was playing, it would have looked a little different. Do I think they would have won? Probably not, but it would have looked a little different. But this is one of the first times I've seen Kyler Murray look pedestrian. Now, this was his first time in the playoffs. I think, this was his first time. This is also Cliff Kingsbury's first time. But the Cardinals, man, they couldn't get anything going. Before we keep moving, I pray, Buda Baker, he went out, with a neck injury. He had to get stretched off. He has since put out, positive message on social media from what I've heard. So I just hope for a speedy recovery. It didn't look. Anytime you have to get stretched off the floor or off the field, and he looked like he was paralyzed for a second before he was able to move his hands and stuff. I'm not speculating on what it was, but I do hope for a speedy recovery because nobody, whether you're a fan or a player, nobody wants to see that. So, but back to the Cardinals, man, they couldn't get anything going on. Now, one thing that I was skeptical about is could the Rams adjust? And when I say adjust, going into this game, we know two things about the Cardinals. The Cardinals were not that good defense, or not that good of a defense as far as stopping the run. They were not that good. And two, were they going to be able to contain Kyler Murray, especially when he goes out the pocket? And when you look at the Rams are more of a pass-happy team. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., you have Tyler Higbee. Were they able to adjust as far as what their game plan going into it was? But watching this game, man, nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing went right for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray threw a horrible pick six. Then I think 2 possessions later threw another pick, which people are going to say was James Conner's fault. No, it was not. First, you threw the ball before James Conner even turned his head. 2, you beamed the ball at the man, and he's like right where the camera is. Like that's not a good pass. But Kyler Murray looked like this was his first playoff game. He really looked like he kind of felt like a rookie. He looked like a rookie. He just didn't look good. And the one thing that I thought that Kyler Murray was superior in is what he didn't do. He did not even really try to use his legs at all. There were a couple times when he tried to get out the pocket, but he really didn't try to run the ball at all, which I was baffled by because we know that's one of Kyler Murray's big. That's like Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not. First of all, people were telling me that Kyler Murray is better than Lamar Jackson. Y'all need to apologize. I know this is one game, but y'all need to apologize. I know Lamar Jackson didn't make the playoffs, but Kyler Murray didn't have to suffer the whole team pretty much getting decimated with injury like Lamar Jackson. Y'all need to apologize to me because I was one of the people that stood here and said, yo, why are y'all saying that Kyler Murray is better than Lamar Jackson, who's already won an MVP in this league? Y'all need to apologize to me. You know, it's funny. Side note, how fans take ownership in things that they should. Like, why do people need to apologize for me for stating their opinion? It's their opinion, bro. If they think that Kyler Murray is better than Lamar Jackson, go right ahead. I don't agree with it, but that's me. Why should they apologize to me? Like, it's funny. But Kyler Murray, back to the topic at hand. Kyler Murray just didn't really do anything well. Yeah, he had a touchdown, and James Conner also scored a touchdown. Oh no, it was just James Conner. Yeah, no, it was bad, man. It was bad, and this is not enough to fire Cliff Kingsbury. To me, the Cardinals making the playoffs is a win in his sense, even though if you look at the totality of the season, you went from going 7-0 to getting bounced in the first game of the playoffs. That's definitely a big loss, but nobody outside of Arizona thought that the Cardinals were going to make the playoffs, and they did. So hell, even J.J. Watt came back for the playoffs. But shouts out to the Cardinals. Shouts out to the Cardinals for making it. Shouts out to the Cowboys for making it. But let's talk about the Rams. This was the Rams team. This was the reason why you spent all that money in the offseason. This was the reason why you brought in Von Miller. This was the reason why you brought in Matthew Stafford. This is the reason why you brought in Odell Beckham Jr. for the playoffs. Now, will they continue that? Because they have a tough matchup, of course, against Tom Brady in the Bucs. I'll let you guys know how I feel about that on Saturday. But this is the reason why here. You have Cam Akers. You have Sonny Michel. Cam Akers, who had an Achilles injury back in July, was incredible. He was one of the biggest reasons why they won the game because his running alongside Sonny Michel's running on Monday night was able to keep the line. Like you didn't have to put Matthew Stafford in situations where he could throw a bad interception. Like he didn't, because the run game was so good. He didn't have to feel like he was playing hero ball. You didn't have to feel like you had to get that one play. Like you didn't put Matthew Stafford in those situations, and he looked incredible, man. This is the Rams team that a lot of people, including myself, thought that this is why you construct this team. This is why you spend all that money. This is why you're in a win now mentality. Because you get to the playoffs and they looked phenomenal. The defense, they couldn't get anything right outside of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. They were incredible. Von Miller looked like the Von Miller of old. Looked like the Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. So this is going to be a scary Rams team. And again, I'll give my predictions on Saturday about the games. But this is why you spend all that money. And they thoroughly outplayed the Cardinals. Like it was from Jump Street. Like Cardinals lost this game within the first 5 minutes, and that's shocking to me because I'm looking at a team that in Arizona that won 7 straight games before. Now they did stumble into the playoffs. I think they lost 4 of the last 5 or something like that, but I'm shocked, and I'm shocked and I'm not shocked And it kind of goes back to the whole criticism that we've had with our Arizona Cardinals all year. It's like we need to wait and see because the Cardinals always. It seems like the Cardinals always have a good stretch, and they always full. And I was one of the people that got fooled this year. I was one of the people like, oh wow, 7-0. Yo, this Cardinals team can definitely make it to the Super Bowl, and then they just fold, and that's usually what happens. And it's they looked bad. They looked bad on Monday. Like it was they didn't even look like they should be on the same field. And I don't really say this much about NFL teams since they're all, professionals, but the Cardinals didn't look like they deserved to be on the field with like they not deserve. They look like it just looked like a different class. Cliff Kingsbury was getting out coached by Sean McVay. Matthew Stafford was playing leaps and bounds better than Kyler Murray. Every unit of the Cardinals were getting outplayed by the unit that was the Rams. So, shouts out to the Rams for beating the Cardinals 34-11. Let's talk about it. So one of the most predictable games ended the way that we thought. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Steelers 42-21. Exactly what we thought would happen. Exactly what we thought would happen is exactly what happened. The Steelers lost. I'm surprised they scored 21 points. I'm only surprised because the Steelers offense ain't like that. Like they haven't been like that for a couple years now. Which is a big reason why a lot of people are pretty much saying this is the swan song for Big Ben. But I mean, Kansas City Chiefs look like Kansas City Chiefs, man. Patrick Mahomes. Now, it did start off. The Steelers did win the first quarter. I think they went into the second quarter up 7-0, and then it was just boat race. Like it took them a minute to wake up, but Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes. Pringle looked like, Pringle was getting passes. McCole Harmon was looking good. Travis Kelce had a touchdown plus threw a touchdown. It was total domination. It was complete domination. And the only reason why the Steelers had a touchdown is because Williams, the running back, fumbled the ball and TJ Watt picked it up and got a scoop and score. Aside of that, and that was in the first quarter. Now, of course, towards the end when teams get more relaxed because they're up 30-7, Big Ben was able to throw, get Johnson involved. The old Johnson came back, bro. He kept dropping. Like he dropped 2 or 3 big passes. Like the drive was going. Like it was a good drive, and then you get to him in a clutch situation a couple times and he dropped it. And that's kind of what we saw a lot last year. But this, there's really not much. There's not much to talk about as far as this game. Now, of course, moving forward, Chiefs and Bills. Well, again, back to Saturday. That'll be a lot to talk about. But this game, nah. I will say this. Let's talk about this. What happens with the Steelers now? To me, the Steelers are they're not really they're definitely not in a good place, and I don't think they'll be in a good place moving forward. The only thing that I trust, the 3 things that I trust right now is Mike Tomlin is going to be a good coach. Mike Tomlin has been a great coach since he's been there. Najee Harris is a really good running back. And even though he did fumble, I think that was his first fumble of the season. And the defense is going to be the defense. Now, the defense is getting older. I mean, Cameron Hayward is getting older. Joe Hayden is getting older. But TJ Watt's game's going to, TJ Watt's good. Minka Fitzpatrick is good. That defense is going to be good. But that offense, man, It's not really the offense, it's the quarterback. Again, you have decent pieces. I mean, you have a really good tight end. You have Juju. Well, we need to figure out what's going to happen with Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool, Johnson, Williams. But the quarterback position is definitely a big question mark. This Big Ben will not be returning. Even if he says, "Oh, I'm doing it one more year," he will not be doing it in Pittsburgh because I mean, you do the whole last game, the "I love you" to the crowd. Big Ben's not returning to Pittsburgh. I don't care. I don't care if he says, "No, I want to run it back." No, I think the fans were so elated. Not elated for him, saying, but I think that they gave him so much love because they're kind of tired of seeing him there. Not saying that they hate him or anything, but they just want Big Ben to, all right, like at this point, let us move on. Let us move on. Do not Brett Favre us. Let us move on. But it's like when you look at the quarterback market, there's really three quarterbacks that could change the trajectory of your franchise, and I don't see the Steelers getting any of them, and that is Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson. I don't see Steelers getting any of them. So what do? Do you get a Tyler Huntley? But I don't think I don't know if the Ravens will make a deal with that. If you draft, who do you get? The dude from Pitt, the guy Radler from Cincinnati. Like, do you think that they're going to change the trajectory of your team? To me, it's going to be rough sledding moving forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially at the quarterback position. And that's why I said they should have drafted a quarterback maybe 2 years ago when they had that really deep quarterback draft, or hell, even a year ago when you had the draft had so many now not all of them were great, but so many quarterbacks in the last few years. Now you're sitting in it and the cupboard is bare unless you just tank for another year or two to try to get Bryce Love or try to get that's it. Oh well, dude from Ohio State, he's good. Maybe Spencer Rattler, but do you want Spencer? I mean, not Spencer Rattler. Maybe Spencer Rattler, but do you I don't know. It's gonna be tough sledding for the Steelers moving forward, and I don't see, because they don't really have a lot of cap space either. I don't believe, but even in that, like, who are you gonna use for that cap? Who is available that you're gonna use? Like, it doesn't, unless you make a trade or something, which I don't see. I don't know. It's gonna be tough sledding for Steelers, and I'm interested to see what they do moving forward. But yeah. But again, they made it to the playoffs. I didn't expect them to make it to the playoffs, and they did. And Kansas City Chiefs handled it. Kansas City Chiefs look like the Kansas City Chiefs that we've seen. I mean, 42-21. So, yeah. On the flip side, the Bills exercised some demons against the Patriots. Man, they beat the Patriots 47-17. And this, I told people that Mac Jones, when teams force Mac Jones to have to play, he doesn't look that good. I mean, we saw the incredible interception that Micah Hyde had in the beginning. Mac Jones, I'm not saying that he won't be great, but Mac Jones he's decent. He's just not that good right now. And the run game wasn't there. The defense is getting torched. Like, man, Josh Allen was torching. Josh Allen, Knicks. The Patriots ain't lost like this in ever, especially no playoffs. And there were people that was really saying that this was going to be a good game. I didn't think that they were going to lose by 30 points, but I didn't think that if the Bills played the best. Now I know the weather was supposed to be a factor, and Josh Allen's not that great in cold, like in history. He hasn't been that great in cold situations, but come on now. Josh Allen against Mac Jones. it was bad all around. The Bill this is the Bills team that a lot of people think could make it to the Super Bowl and have a good decent shot because of how good they played. Great on all. The run game was good. Their defense was incredible, and Josh Allen using his legs and arm like Josh Allen looked like the MVP candidate that we saw last year. This is the team that the way that the Bills played on Saturday was the team that we thought they were going to be this entire year. So, and honestly, the Patriots, there was nothing that you could do when they're rolling on firing all cylinders like they were. The crowd was crazy in Buffalo. It's nothing that the Patriots could have done, like absolutely nothing. So I'm surprised at the score because I mean the Bills have been getting beat up by the Patriots for years now. Of course, that's also contingent on the fact that Tom Brady was there, and a lot of people were looking at that first game or the game that the Patriots beat them, but the win it was like 50 miles an hour wind. Like ain't nobody gonna win that game like that. Especially, actually, the team that's gonna win that game is a team that doesn't really rely on their quarterback and rely on their running game, which is exactly what the Patriots did. But this was different. It was cold, but it wasn't that windy, and the Bills beat the absolute dog-ish out of the Patriots. So shouts out to the Bills for beating the Patriots 47-17. Like there's not much to say about that. Like that is just a royal whooping. So yeah. Shouts out to the Bengals for breaking a 30-year curse or something. And finally winning a playoff game. That was the best, second best. That was the second best. Well, that was the best wild card game this weekend, and that was the Bengals against the Raiders. That was because you had now both teams aren't great, but both teams were firing on all cylinders. I mean, or not firing. Both teams were giving it their best. Joe Burrow was looking good. Jamar Chase was looking great. T. Higgins. Now we all heard the whistle from the ref before he caught the ball, and that was definitely a point of conversation. The refs weren't that good. The refs ain't really been good this year, period. But they definitely weren't that good this weekend, or wild card weekend. But it is what it is. You know that you have to pretty much overcome and do what you got to do. But the Raiders were, Josh Jacobs was playing great. Darren Waller was playing great. Derek Carr was playing good. And then on the Bengals side, everyone that you thought the Bengals were, it was good. That was a really good game. And it came down to Derek Carr has been so great. I mean, I think he's been like the leader in game-winning drives. I think he had like 6. I think they were 6-0 in games that are like 3 points or whatever, within 3 points, and he just couldn't do it at the end. And it was a great game. I felt myself rooting for both teams. It was good, and I think this game meant a lot to a lot of people. I mean, for the Raiders, it kind of justified. Well, their play justified them being into the playoffs, and it was an incredible run, seeing as though everything that the Raiders have went through this year. And for the Bengals, of course, the long curse that they haven't won a playoff game since injuring Bo Jackson. It was a good game. I think now the question is, especially for the Raiders, what happens moving forward? There's a lot of question marks for the Raiders. Do they stay with Derek Carr? I think they should, but you've heard time and time again that Derek Carr's on the trade block. Now I do think a lot of that was John Gruden, but Derek Carr, that they might want to get off Derek Carr. They haven't, what are they going to do with their head coach? Right now, he's the intern head coach because of the firing of John Gruden. But a lot of people, including Derek Carr, have said that they do like him and do want him to, get the intern title off and just remain head coach. But there are also people that think that they just need a reset and that he isn't really the best. He's not fit to be the coach moving forward. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Not to mention the fact that they need to get better at the wide receiver position. Yes, you have Deshaun Jackson, but you need to get better at wide receiver position because Edwards ain't gonna cut it. You know, you do have Darren Waller who's good, but you need to get better at wide receiver position, and you need to get better at the offensive line. Now, Alex Leatherwood, he got a lot of crap from me this year, but he did, especially towards the end of the year, he did look good. It's just the team needs to get better. It needs to get better defensively because they were getting gashed as far as the secondary definitely needs to improve because now I know it's tough when you look and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they were killing everybody this year, but the amount of ease that they were getting passes off is kind of crazy. So there's a lot that needs to be done with the Raiders, and I think the first one is, are they going to retain their head coach and remove the interim title and give them the head coaching job, or who is it going to be? But there's a lot that needs to be figured out with the Raiders, but they did make it. One of the teams that I thought had no shot at making the playoffs, that made it. So shouts out to them, man. And for the Bengals look good. I'll talk about it more moving forward, but the Bengals looked really good. Now, the problems that plague the Bengals still plague the Bengals. Their defense is not that good. I solely believe if they played a better offensive team, which they will be playing next week, that it could be different. And their offensive line, bro, they were still getting to Joe Burrow with ease. Now I understand it's kind of hard because you have Max Crosby on one side and he's a Pro Bowler, but the offensive line is still horrible, and that defense is still not that good. Especially when we talk about stopping the run, they just weren't that good. But they did what they had to do. Joe Burrow was incredible. Jamar Chase was incredible. And shouts out to the Bengals for being the Raiders. So, and I'm not even gonna stay on this for long. This was probably this was the most lopsided game of the. Now, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs score. They won by 21. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs could have definitely scored more. They just didn't. The same can definitely be said for the Bucs. The Bucs beat the Eagles 31-15. And this was completely lopsided. Jalen Hurts looked horrible. Everybody on the Eagles looked bad. No one looked good. No one. They were just outmatched, outclassed, everything. Like you're going against Tom Brady and the Bucs, and it didn't look like. Now, of course, Tom Brady was sacked a couple times, but there was no resistance, none. Like Mike Evans was going crazy, and this is a team that didn't even have Leonard Fournette. They went. Philly went in there and got nothing. The Bucs got everything that they wanted from it. The Eagles didn't. Now, of course, record-wise, they were by far the worst team in the playoffs, and it looked like it. You went against man. There's really not much to be said. The Bucs looked like the Bucs, and the Eagles looked like the Eagles that we thought they were going to look like. They just looked outmanned, out. It was bad. It was bad all around for the Eagles. Like I can't really sugarcoat it. The Eagles looked bad, so they couldn't get nothing. Jalen Hurts looked horrible. bro. The running game looked horrible. The defense they had a couple sacks, but they looked horrible. Now, again, Tom Brady can make a great defense look horrible, but not that bad. And that's not a great defense. So the Eagles were by far the worst team. The Eagles looked worse than the Cardinals did. Now, the Cardinals looked bad. The Eagles looked worse than the Patriots looked. Now, there were some really good games like the Bengals and the Raiders, the Cowboys and the 49ers. It was either a good game or a blowout because, Raiders, Bengals, good game. Patriots, Bills, blowout. Eagles, Bucks, blowout. 49ers, Cowboys, good game. Steelers, Chiefs, blowout. Cardinals, Rams, blowout. Now, they weren't uninteresting blowouts outside the Eagles. The Eagles, that was just hard to watch, bro. I wasn't trying. I guess that is an indictment on the Eagles because it's like they looked horrible, bro. Like there was nothing redeeming about that game. I guess the fact that they scored 15 points. But other than that, it was bad. And it was against a team that was banged up defensively. Because we know, and I said this when I said how the Eagles could win. You're going to have to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have to win the passing game or be better at passing. And, Jalen Hurts threw it was an incredible interception, but he threw an interception to Shaq Barrett. Like, come on now. It was not good. But that was Wild Card Weekend. Again, next episode, I'll give my prediction of the next round, but that's what I saw for Wild Card Weekend. So let's move over to basketball a little bit. Kevin Durant is out. He sprained his MCL. He will be out 4 to 6 weeks. I'll say this. This could be one or two things could happen. This can be when I say this could be a great thing that happens. I'm not saying I wish injury upon anybody, especially somebody like, I don't wish injury upon anybody. Let me not say that. I don't wish injury upon anyone. And when I say that something can be great, I'm saying as far as a team standpoint. So when I say that, Kevin Durant's injury can be catastrophic to the Brooklyn Nets team, or it could benefit more than we think. Let's start with the catastrophic. Kevin Durant is an MVP finalist right now. Kevin Durant is a top 3 or 4 MVP candidate. And you take that off a team, they're gonna struggle. Now, the East hasn't been that good since the start of the year, but he's still your best player. He's still arguably the best player in the league. And losing him is still devastating for any team, no matter what you have, who you have. Losing a Kevin Durant, losing a LeBron James, losing a Steph Curry, losing a Nicole Jokic, losing a Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's always gonna send ripples, not just through the team, but through the NBA. And it is very fortunate that it's only an MCL sprain, because it looked bad. It looked bad when it happened. I think Bruce Brown fell into his knee, and we know Kevin Durant's history, especially with lower leg injuries. It could have been worse. So I'm glad that it's only, even though I don't wish injury upon anyone, I'm glad that it's only an MCL sprain, because it could have been worse. And he'll be out to 4 to 6 weeks, meaning if it's at the 6 weeks point, I think that's close to, or if it's at the 4 point, I think it's, right around, no, I think it's going to be right around or close to, or after All-Star break or something like that. But you just need him healthy for the playoffs. So that's the most catastrophic, because this team can definitely crater and start. I mean, they did just lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that, it's losing his player like Kevin Durant is catastrophic. So now, the way it could the way that it could benefit more than we think is, James Harden has not played well this year. He's had spurts, he's had games, but James Harden has not played that well this year. And of course, we know the Kyrie Irving coming back for away games, he's gonna need to get more acclimated to the team. So with Kevin Durant out, the ball is solely pretty much on Kyrie Irving and James Harden. More so James Harden than Kyrie, seeing as though James Harden should be there for all the games. And that could hopefully get James Harden out of whatever the hell he's going on with. I don't know if it's a funk. I don't know if it's just a season that he's just not playing. He has not played well. He's looked a little disinterested at times. He's had horrible shooting games. Now again, there have been games where he's been cool, but he hasn't really been playing that well. So I don't know. I do hope for a speedy recovery. Draymond Green's out too. I think that's a huge. Draymond Green's out for another 2 weeks for a calf injury that's, I think, connected to his back or something like that. That's going to be huge for Golden State as well, because I mean, we know the Golden State's, even though you have Steph Curry, even though you have Klay Thompson trying to get back right, even though you have James Wiseman pretty much in the Raptors coming in sometime, Draymond Green is the heart and soul of that team, and he makes the offense run. Even though how great Steph Curry is, Draymond Green's big, so that injury's big too. But you never want to see a player out. So with I hope for a speedy recovery with Kevin Durant and with Draymond Green. So yeah. And there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. I think this one is a shorty. This is definitely a shorty. 50 minutes is short. That's crazy. But if you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, long sleeve sweater, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get yours today. It looks good. It's cold, so go get some sweaters, hoodies. Do what you got to do. Also, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.